Trace the amata. I've seen pretty dreams disappear like smoke. I once touched heaven, will I ever get back? Trace the amata,
Okay, so let's talk about drawing and a different type of drawing technique that we're not usually that familiar with. All right. Both left and right. I'm going to try to scoot this over for you a little bit. These two images are made with the same element of art, but that element is pulling a trick on your eyes, right? It's creating other elements. It's creating value. It's creating shape. It's actually even creating form. And in certain circumstances, you could argue it's creating space as well. As we take a look at both these drawings, what do they seem to be made out of? What element? The one on the right is probably the easiest to figure out. They're drawn in ink. You are correct about that. But what element is making up those images? Now I'll give you a clue. Every one of these elements, every one of this element is vertical. Second clue, we put these elements together and we create shape. If we take a look at this lady, thin to thick, thin to thick, thin, 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 thick. What's creating her face? A whole series of what? I'm gonna go back this one. All right, what you're looking at here is a series of lines, guys. They're just vertical lines, straight up and down. If we take a look at the one on the right, how do those lines change to create that image? In this case, as we're taking a look at the picture on the right, those lines get thicker and thinner. They get thicker by her eyeball up here to create the illusion of that eyeball. They get thinner on her cheek lines to show the skin tone. They get thicker here to create the lips. This one, they don't do that. The one on the left, they don't get thicker or thinner at all. Now, being that this is ink and you can't press harder, how did they make this area darker than this area? What happens to the lines up here in this dark area that isn't happening down here by this lighter one? With creating shading. But how? I mean, think about it. If you have a black pen, it's always going to be black. Like you can't press harder and make black more black. It's always going to be black. So how do they get this to make your eye think it looks darker than this area that looks lighter down here? Excellent. They add more lines. So the lines get closer together. It makes your eye believe it's darker. They get farther apart, it's lighter. This guy changed the thickness of the lines because if you look at the top, they're all kind of spread out, pretty much the same distance. They just get fat and skinny. Here, all the lines are skinny, but they get closer together and there's more of them. That's what creates the shade. Now, a lot of art teachers, especially back in my day, would do the same thing with dots. The closer the dots are together, the darker the image would look. Farther apart the dots were, the lighter the image would look. Yeah, it looks cool. I gotta admit, you will never use this. You will never, like you might draw sand someday and be like, yes, dots. But it's, you do this for every art teacher that you ever have. You do, it's called stippling. You dot, 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 dot. And then you go through your entire life and you're like, man, I never want to stipple again because it takes forever. The dots take forever. The lines they come fast because the lines are like sketching. All right. If we take a look here, this lady's entire face made out of vertical lines. All right. This weird still life. All the shapes are created out the starting and the stopping of lines. All right. You go back to our girl and her nose. There's a problem with this drawing. Yeah, we've got some shading in here, but her forehead, her cheek, the edge of her nose, her chin, even her neck, nobody is that white ever. You know, nobody. Even people covered in paint, statues aren't that white and fleshed out. So while some of this drawing is actually pretty good, there's big chunks of it where it just kind of fell flat. Trying to move this over, you can see the still life. She should have just added more lines. Yeah, because the face details disappeared. Right here on the still life, boom, boom, boom. Lots of lines, starting and stopping the lines create the illusion of the curve. And here we see two faces are done really, really well. All right. Even though they tend to be of the Caucasian persuasion, you still see the idea of skin tone, and you see the subtle bumps in the face that make the face look three-dimensional. Right. Cool. So we're going to do this together. We're going to do an eyeball. That's what we're going to do today together as a class. So let me pop on over to my camera. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the pupil of the eye. So the pupil of the eye is going to be a circle. So our first job here is to attempt to draw a circle with vertical lines. What? Yes, watch. I'm going to put my line down the middle for the pupil. Boom, 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 boom. All right. To the left of it, I'm going to draw shorter lines to kind of create the curve of that image. And you know what? Since it looks a little fuzzy here, I'm going to zoom in. All right. I'm going to do the same thing on the right, but I'm going to leave a blank spot to create the little highlight that I usually put in. Now, every one of the lines that I am creating are straight up and down. It doesn't bother me if I go back over them. That's fine. All right. So I have created basically a circle, a pupil with a little shiny light, little dot of up and down lines. All right. Give yourself a minute or so, make that happen. Make it so, number one. Now we're going to do the retina, which is the color bit around that eye. I'm going to do something a little different though. Even though the retina is a circle, it's usually covered by the top lid and the bottom lid. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start out kind of not with a circle. I'm going to draw the upper part of the lid. And I'm going to draw the bottom part of the lid. And I'm doing this with just straight up and down lines. So what I'm really doing is I'm doing the outline of the eye before I do my retina. Right? So I kind of make the shape around my eye. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can come back and I can create the color part of that eye. Now your eye might be a little more football shaped. I did kind of the hawk head eye because I want a tear duct down in this area. But the shape of your eye is pretty much up to you. I'm gonna give you guys a couple of minutes to mess with that. And while you're gonna do that, I'm gonna stand up because this stool is horrible. It's pretty much. All right, does anybody need a little more time on this? Just to get that shape and that retina down. It's fine if you do. I know I do this kind of quick. All right, cool. Now I'm going to show you what to do if you've got your ebony pencil. My ebony pencil is going to be a lot darker. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to kind of go over some of these lines. Still going with the whole vertical theme. And I'm not shading it. I still want my lines to have independence. But I'm going to make that eye a little darker. Now, I'm also going to kind of put, even though I'm doing this with straight vertical lines, I'm kind of putting an outline around my retina. People with lighter eyes, even if they're brown, sometimes you see this where they seem to have kind of a little outline around the eye. And I'm doing that just so I can experiment and make the contrast between the retina and the pupil. Also, if you don't have an ebony yet, you can always press harder. All right, so my next step is I want to make an eyelid. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add a little row of straight up and down lines. To make the eyelid. And you'll probably notice that my lines are getting a little longer to the outsides. This is a lot like sketching. So if you wanted to take and make a eyeshadow on top of that lid, you could probably use a little less pressure and then just fill in that area with vertical lines. I'll give you a minute or so to work on this. Now the upside is that you're doing this in class as practice when you go to do your one that you choose the photo from. You can make all your mistakes today. That's not true. You make no mistakes no matter what. At some point, you get good at covering them. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to get some eyelashes on there. I'm going to use my ebony because I want my eyelashes to be a little darker. And I'm just going to start to create these little spikes by starting and stopping. And you'll notice as you start to do eyelashes, the eyelashes in the middle tend to be a little more straight up and down. They also get thinner as they go to the inner part of the eye. Now I'm going to take that eye line and I'm going to make it darker, either by pressure or by pencil. Right. But I have an eyelash. You can do the same thing on the bottom. The bottom eyelashes tend to be sparse, but not as thick as the top eyelashes. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes on that one. All righty. So for this next one, I'm going to grab my number 2, my normal number 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna kind of create the divot that the eyeball sits in. All right. So I'm going to start off very lightly over here. And where this divot ends on the top is where your eyebrow is going to start. And then this way we get not only a skin tone, but we start to get the beginnings of it looking like it has form. As you notice here by the edge of the eye, where it would be more predominant, I'm adding more lines. So this really is just me kind of sketch shading in where the divot in this eye would most likely occur. And I say divot would most likely occur because at the moment, I'm not really drawing from reality, I'm drawing from my mind. From the thousands of people I've drawn over the years. All right. So I'm just kind of taking and I'm putting that out there like so. Now, when I get done with that and I feel all right, I'm going to go back to my ebony and I'm going to start to do my eyebrow. Now, it dawned on me in my last class that I don't understand the purpose of the eyebrow except to exacerbate or enhance expression making. I don't know what its job is. I'm sure at some point it did something in history. What that thing is lost to me. Whether you have one eyebrow or you have 2. You would assume they would have served a purpose. Perhaps to keep dust mites out of your eyes. Eyebrows tend to be a little thicker, heading toward the nose. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of measure my eye, come down. This is about where the nose should take place. All right. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to roughly do the nose. Remember how we talked about how the nose is made up of like a bird wing? So I'm kind of doing that bird wing here. I'm going to go back in and put my lines closer together to make that kind of teardrop nostril shape. Maybe I'll extend the bottom of the bird here. And the reason I'm showing you kind of how to do the nose is because the nose is what really messes people up. Most people are pretty good doing their lips, getting that sort of thing figured out. Maybe I want it to have a slightly tilted nose, so I'm going to add a little more line work in here. Maybe there'll be that weird little indent under your nose. But nobody knows the name of it. So, all right. So that's basically, I'm gonna let you guys play with after the rest of the day. Now, if you finish that all up, and you're like, I did the eye, I did the nose, I have no desire to do the mouth. Okay, take a picture of it. Put it in your portfolio, write daily work line next to it, and you guys can start looking for your next image. Now, let's talk about that next image. Okay, so how do I find an image? Well, number one, let's go here. All right. So I am in my computer page and I open a blank screen and all I do is write images. Boom. And I'll probably get a Google image right in that list. Google's pretty safe school-wise. You don't find a lot of stuff on there that is inappropriate. Back in the old day, you could type in earthworm and get in trouble in front of an entire class, but now the search engines are a lot cleaner. So you have to kind of figure from this image what it is that you want to draw, or who it is you want to draw, because this should be a person and it should be a photograph. And you don't have to tell me who this is. I just want you working off an actual photograph. So if you show me SpongeBob later, I will not be particularly impressed because that's not what this is about. But let's say I want to type my favorite, oh my God, it comes right up. If I want to type my favorite movie actress, so I type in Mila, and I've done this enough that I get Mila Jovovich black and white right away. Then it gives you a whole series of pictures to choose from. Now, not all of these pictures are good pictures to use for this kind of assignment. Like we go with this one here. I don't know if I can skinny that up. A lot of times they front flash models, and they do that to get rid of the wrinkles around the eyes and to get rid of imperfections in the face. You don't want that. You don't want it to be so perfect and so doll-like, because you're not going to be able to get your values. So I can roll through here and look around, see what I get. That's a really good one. I thought there was a better one here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it. So, oh, there it is. Okay. So this would be an actually really good one. Not only do I have different skin tones that I can make with those lines, but I've got some heavy shadows around the eyebrow. I've got multiple eyeshadows going on here. I've got nice dark nostrils. I got a little white spot I can leave behind, kind of a shimmer off the top of her forehead, more shadow along the cheek lines, white for the two big teeth she got in the middle, super dark here inside the mouth where her teeth curve. That would be a really good picture to use for this assignment. All right. There was another one. This one also would be a good one, even though it's a little bit lighter. We've still got the shadows under the eyes. We got all the stuff going on the edge of the nose to give it form, darker areas, lighter areas. above the chin, under the lip. In this one, her teeth are not the widest part of it. So you wouldn't make them the widest part. All right. So when you go to pick your photos, just make sure that your photo you're picking isn't real washed out. If it's washed out like that, it's going to just make it less interesting to do. It's going to make it harder for you to make it look 3D with all those lines. All right, cool. We still got about 10 minutes or so, maybe more, like 9. So either look for your picture and then right click and save it on your desktop so you can use it tomorrow. Or if you need to finish up this drawing you just did, please do that as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about out of time here today. For tomorrow, if you have not sent in a picture of your practice today, please do so. Also find an image of somebody you like. It could be your favorite actor or actress. If you want to do Spider-Man, do Tom Holland, not a guy in a Spider-Man outfit. Or you could do the other guys who played Spider-Man. Seems like there's been a lot over the past 20 years. All right, that's about it, guys. Have yourself a good day. Stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, don't get caught.